what I'm going to hopefully show you guys today is that there is a self-coaching model that's accessible. It's always better with friends, right? So that's what we're going to try and go through today, is some of the ways to figure out life so that we can move quicker towards our goals, towards what we want. So why do we need clarity? I'm going to preface this with, I feed off of conversation. That's how coaching works. Coaching is a conversation. So you don't need to give me long-winded dissertations on your life, but, you know, let's start with names and why this topic interested you.
My name is Jay Franson. I'm a research fellow at Mayo. I actually was interested for my husband, and I wanted to be supportive in this because he moved here for me, and he's into entrepreneurship, and he's hopefully starting something soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
My name is Steve. I'm the husband.
Well done.
I'm in the stay-at-home husbands department in Mayo. And as Sheena said, so I moved here from, and we moved here from a very different background. We moved here from the Gulf? Is that correct? Middle East. Oh, sorry, I think the Gulf, everyone thinks like the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
So the
Gulf, from Texas or Mexico?
So the Middle East, which is, as you guys can imagine, it's a very different environment. And so being here definitely motivates you to do something. And so hopefully glad to be here, and hopefully you can learn a lot. Yeah.
Sounds good. I'm Rebecca. I'm in finance at Mayo. Worked with a few little startups here and there, and I just like to keep in touch with my entrepreneurial side, so excited to be here.
Cool.
And it's my husband.
I'm also the husband.
Hey, Joe.
Not in that same department, but I'm an architectural designer and project manager for a construction company, and then have my own business doing home design and repairs as well. To quote the Bible, maybe for lack of vision, people perish. And need clarity in everything that we do, I think. And so, and to support Jay even, because he's an awesome guy. So.
Yeah, I know 4 of them that are here.
My name is Ahmed Makawi. I have a business, I'm IT at Mayo also, but I have a business on the side and a couple different projects. One thing I never was able to find out or figure out was clarity, like how to prioritize and work on the right things at the right time. I'm always doing all of them, and I'm not very good at juggling. So.
My name's Amanda. I am an entrepreneurial ecosystem builder, so I help entrepreneurs in Rochester think about their business, connect with resources they need. Why I am here? First of all, I think, obviously if you don't know where you're going, how do you know if you get there? So I think this is really useful for the businesses I work with, and then Jay and I are working on another project, so learning how, what we could do with that project in regards to mental health and entrepreneurs. So that's something we have cooking for, I forget when we said, mid-May.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, cool. Very good. Awesome. Well, life gives us too much life. And that's Dr. Evil from a movie. And I have a lot of clients that talk about work-life balance, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I think it's interesting that Michelle said we need to do a better job of putting ourselves higher on our own to-do list. Right? That has to do with clarity of thought and purpose. And then always take some of the play, fun, freedom, and wonder of the weekend into your week and your work.
I like that.
And so I don't think that work-life balance exists. It's more like a teeter-totter. For a time, you're a stay-at-home dad. It's where you're needed. For a time.
Stay-at-home husband.
Right. Oh, that's even better.
That's what's up.
Right? Stay-at-home husband. You need to learn guitar and play computer games. There's time for that. I have 5 kids. My oldest is 21. My youngest is 4. And my oldest, I met him when he was 5. I married his mom. And I adopted him when he was 14. And I was just a father to a stepkid. Like in my brain, that was my job. He turned 18 and I was like, holy cow, what do I do now? Like, I successfully raised this kid. He's not dead and I'm not a grandpa. 2 huge wins. And all of a sudden I'm going, what's next? Right? And I was really disconnected from myself because my focus had been on him. And so that teeter-totter was just life, just family. And then now I'm coming back to this. Now I can step back out in the world and find other things. So I've been coaching for 3 years. This is the first job I've ever had that I like to do. I get a lot of clients that go, wait, you're excited to go to work? What would that be like? A lot of people say that. So yeah, I like those quotes. I think they're appropriate. In the business world, 70% have struggled with imposter syndrome, which basically means you don't think you belong where you are in the role that you've been given. You don't feel equipped. You feel like a fraud. You don't feel like you feel like if people knew who you really were, they would see that you're a phony or whatever. And then I laughed. 49% are currently dissatisfied with their job. This came from, I think it was Newsweek, and the title said, the majority of Americans are happy with their job. And I'm like, 51%? like, you're not really getting actually the truth here.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge amount of people still that go to work and it isn't fulfilling. And that, again, is a disconnect from where they're coming from, what they want to bring to the world, and how they show up. So how do I find clarity? More importantly, where am I? Where am I? Where am I coming from? What are my skill sets? What are my interests? When you think about who you are as a person, we have this outer layer that everyone else gets to see, and it's our state of doing. It's the roles we fill. So we are a child because we have parents. Most of us maybe have friends. Most of us fall into a spouse or parent, business person, employer, employee. But those actually aren't who we are. Some people get it wrong, and they think that the role that they fill is who they are. I was working with a manager today, and he said, I have this employee that anytime someone challenges him, he falls apart because his identity was attached to the role he had in his company. He wasn't confident outside of that role, and that was just a part of who he was. And I'm like, hey, he should meet with me. He's like, oh, I know. Everyone should. But if you notice there's a should, and it points up to maybe a role that you don't even belong in. People that should on us really well are our parents and our spouses. Parents say you should grow up to be a doctor or a lawyer, or you should exercise more. Spouses, you should play with your kids more. And what happens is the difference between where we are, this is reality, and where we should be, or shouldn't be, but someone else is telling us we should, creates tension. I worked with a woman 2 years ago, CPA, MBA, moving into a C-suite role at a company. And she's like, I'm ridiculously unhappy and I don't know why. All of my boxes are checked. I've got a husband, I've got kids, I've got a career, I'm climbing a ladder. And she's like, but what's going on? And we realized through conversation, her parents had told her every step to take throughout her life. And it wasn't in line with her own values. Through our time together, she realized that she's all about entrepreneurship. Independence was like the word that personified who she was. And we'd worked together for 3 or 4 months, and she met with me and she goes, so I quit my job. And I'm like, what? I didn't do that. That wasn't me. You know, she was 6 figures, moving into a position of, you know, stock options ownership. She was on track to become the CFO of a company, a wealthy company that's doing well. And I go, what are you going to do? And she's like, I think I'm going to start something. Okay. And, you know, through that time, she's like, I'm so ridiculously stressed. This is so hard. The entrepreneurship is so hard. Every day is are we going under? What fire is going to show up that I had no idea was coming? And she goes, it's so ridiculously hard, but I would never want to go back to that executive role I had. She's like, I know who I am. So, which is kind of cool. She and I, we located reality. What I use with a lot of people, I start with the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs. It's just a real quick introduction to preferences. There isn't a lot of depth to it as far as who you really are, but it's a good start. ESTP, ENTP, I took the test 2 times. I got 2 different results. But that's where I've shown up on the MBTI. Strengths Finders, another just incredibly useful tool. Mine are relator, strategic, belief, responsibility, and intellection. And locating is also very valuable because this is one of those clarity aspects of people telling you something you should be, or you wanting something and realizing that it's actually outside of your skill set. You know, I kind of laughed at being a coach. When you own a business, you have to do marketing stuff unless you can pay someone else to do it. And woo is the excitement of meeting new people. That's 26 of 34 on my list. I am not excited to network. I am not excited to go out and meet new people. Hey, Jamie's like, he's not. I go to events, I show up, but I stand in the back. And then I beat myself up going, man, I should be out there and charismatic and jumping in people's faces and high-fiving and, you know. And I found it makes sense. It's so down the list. What am I going to do? And I found somebody who woo was in their top 5. And you show up in a room with them, they already know everyone's name and their children's names and their career. And you go, hey, who should I meet? And they go, well, that person and that person. I go, I can do that, right? So I leveraged someone else's skills and then brought it down to where I could manage it, right? Clarity is powerful. And then I can tell my wife, hey, calm down. Quit telling me to do all this networking stuff. I'm gonna work where I function best. The DISC, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. It's more of a business tool, and it's 4 different ways of communication. And the D is direct, and I scored 17. The other one I scored 99. And I'm more of a collaborative person. And so when it comes to interacting with people, it's good to know where you're coming from. The DISC is one of the assessments I took that I was like, doing this right here, I'm going, I can't talk for an hour and nobody else talk. And you take something like the DISC and you go, oh, I function best when there's communication, when it goes both ways. And so these things are powerful in the way we create presentations, the way we move after things we want. The last one I listed was Enneagram. Enneagram is pretty fascinating. It's your core motivations, your core fear, your core desire. It explains how we typically handle stress. My wife is a 6, and I come home and the house is rearranged. I know that she didn't want to rearrange the house. I know that she was stressed. And the rearranging was a response to something else. And so I go, all right, honey, what's going on? Oh, I got off the phone with my sister, my mom, right? And she just talks to me about that. But knowing where she goes to when she's stressed, I'm able to engage with her. I used to get mad and go, where'd you put my stuff? Why is my chair over there? And now I'm able to engage with her and bring value. We talked earlier about is versus should. This creates tension. We hear people say, you know, I'm lazy, I should be more active, or I'm disengaged, I should be more engaged. I'm too involved, I should be less involved. A lot of work I do with people is learning to say no. And Ahmed and I talked about FOMO, fear of missing out. And the alternative is JOMO, joy of missing out. Right? People say, I am overworked. I should be work less. So finding that balance, working through that. So as we do this work to locate reality, we get a clearer picture of who we are and what we're bringing to what we're doing. And on top of that, we're also going to answer the question, what am I all about? And this is, remember, we showed the roles we fill. I'm not all about family. I'm not all about my job. Those are roles we fill. There's something else inside of us that needs to show up at those places. So moving down this idea, this understanding of who we are, we have a state of being. And this is where we answer that inner identity question of, what am I all about? Sometimes we get into situations and I'm not enough, or I'm too much, or I'm bad, or I'm broken. And the goal is to say I'm fantastic. When I worked through this, I realized that my answer to that question is quality relationships. But that means that coaching for me is a great place to be. I get to interact with you, and I get to help you develop better relationships with those people that you work with. The one girl I mentioned, her what are you all about? It was independent. That was her answer. And that was perfect. And once she answered it, it was very fun. She leaned back and she looks at me and she goes, whoa, what do I do with that? She had to wrestle with where she was going to take this. Which is fun. Figuring out, how do I show up with my kids? How do I show up with my spouse? What do I do at work? Why am I at work? Do I get to be me here? Do I get to be this? And if not, get out of there. Go somewhere else. And all of us have a source. When our identity is challenged, we take who we think we are and we drop it into either shame or fear or love. And that's where we talk about, I'm not enough. Yeah, that's shame. I'm not enough. Yeah, that's imposter syndrome. I don't have what it takes. Who do I think I am? That's a huge phrase that people, entrepreneurs, they get in deep and they go, what am I doing? Who do I think I am to think that I could? Other than Elon Musk, he's never asked that ever about anything. But most every normal human being, they come up against this place. Fear of failure is a huge thing. Instead, we come down and we go, no, I know who I am, and I know that I'm worthy of love. And I'm going to come back into who I am, and I'm going to show up in a different way. So when we talk about finding out what that one thing is that's as important as air, there's a couple of ways to do it. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Simon Sinek. He wrote the Start With Why book. He's written Leaders Eat Last. He has a book called Find Your Why, which is kind of a field manual to do this work. And he explains it as my why is to do something, fill in the blank, so that a certain result happens. So mine is to show up with quality connections, and that being my intent, so that others can go out and connect. And that's how I show up as a coach. That's how I show up with my kids and my spouse. The one thing is in a popular book right now. He's similar idea. Spend some time with yourself and go, what am I really doing? You know, talking about where to start.
Oh, tell me about it.
You got to do a lot of work ahead of you before you can start, right? Yeah. Have you started to dabble with some things?
Man, I've started dabbling with a lot of things, but I feel like I keep going off track. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what's the track?
Tracks. So many tracks. I don't know where to start. It's kind of like I built so many tracks that I lost my way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Kind of overwhelming. I do feel like it's being over ambitious, but in my head it goes back to no, this is all realistic because I am over ambitious. Does that make any sense? So I don't know. Yeah. What you're saying is making a lot of sense right now. So it's definitely, you know.
Yeah.
making a special resonate for sure.
Yeah. I don't know is the beginning of the work that needs to be done. I have some clients that's literally their answer to everything I ask. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, if you did know, what would you know? And they're like, that's not fair. Right? And you can use that on him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. And you're like, well, if you did know, what would you know?
Yeah. No, but I think for him, it's because he has so many great ideas. It's just he doesn't know which one to, because I think it's best to focus on one
Yeah.
and then go with that running.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, it's like, which one should I choose? Like, am I going to miss out if I do something else?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, I know what I want. It's just where do I start?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially like with new surroundings. Like back overseas, like back home, let's say, it was just because of limitation. Because there was a lot of like here, for example, literally you can go like $1,000, $2,000, open a company, get a registration, everything. Ready for business.
Yeah.
There's kind of different. You need capital, you need sponsors, you need partners. There's a lot of limitations for people that are not local, that are not citizens of that specific country. So that's why I felt like I didn't prosper there. But here, you know, it's a different game.
Yeah.
So I think like what Shane was saying is true. It's not. I don't know where I don't know. It's not about where to go. It's about where to start. I know what I need to do, but I know like I got concept. Everything is on the books. But where do I start? I think that's the main question for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Maybe we'll get something figured out. So this is Pac-Man. Not really. When we wrestle with these big questions of where am I, locating reality, and we distinguish between is and should, and we recognize some of the stories we tell, recognizing where to start for you, there's something in the way. Yeah,
for sure.
So we gotta find out what it is, right?
Yeah, I think it's me.
Yeah.
That's in the way. Yeah, but
The business owner is always the bottleneck of the company. Always. It doesn't matter what it is. I've worked a lot with quite a few business owners that are like, I want to grow. And then they quickly realize they don't have the skill to scale their company. They're not capable with communication or leadership.
Or timely decisions. They might have the people there and the visionaries. And like, well, let me think about it. Your window of opportunity is closing, and everybody else sees that opportunity, and they can't just get that yes to seize it. Push them over that point.
Absolutely. And a lot of business owners, studies have shown that a business owner views their business with the same amount of love as they show their children. That is wild. But at the same time, here I am on an evening instead of home with my kids. I'm here, and I'm like, all right, makes sense. So when it comes to scaling, you got to give stuff up. And just like with our kids, we're like, I'm not just going to give my kid to anyone. They've got to be vetted hardcore. I'm going to be super picky. And that's how it is with business too. And the owners end up getting in the way of what they want, learning they have a lot of work to do. Once we answer these questions well, where am I? What am I really all about? And how does that show up in what I'm doing? I worked with one client, talking about you loving many things, seeing many ideas. I worked with a client that had a company, hated all of the small stuff. And her answer to what I'm all about is visionary. She's like, I cast vision. And you could tell. You just have a conversation with her and it's like, vision. She gets lost in the details. And we realized that the best thing she could do is find people to do all of that stuff. She's like, yeah, but I don't want to be a boss either. What are we going to do? Let's subcontract. and let's talk about the benefits of bringing different companies together. And so she's able to cast a vision over other companies that come in under her vision and bring something to fruition. And that was a huge tension for her, was she's caught in the details and it's killing her. And that's why she called me. She's like, I'm just treading water, I'm stuck. And so she was able to move that and be purposeful with what she did.
So Jay, in your experience, do you find that people's failures bring them closer to their clarity, as painful as that is for entrepreneurs or business types? Or
Yeah, I mean, nobody really swallows it very well, other than probably Elon Musk. Oh, look, a rocket blew up. Oh, look, a Tesla exploded on the interstate. I'm going to tweet about it. You know, most of us, we come up against a failure, and you know, I love the startup community. Pivot is such a great non-threatening word to say that didn't work. It might have been a colossal failure, but we're going to say pivot. Pivot feels better. And so that's a reframe of failure. But yeah, everybody, they're like, I tried and tried and tried and it didn't work. Great. Let's quit doing it. Let's do something else. Let's find what works. Yeah. In the town of Mayo, I laugh. Most people live on the side of punishment. They're not chasing after what they want. Yeah. Maybe Ahmed could elaborate on that. You have a personal story to share about Mayo? We live in this fuzzy space of I don't really know, and it pays the bills, and I mean the insurance is good. Well, what do you do there? Oh, meetings. What else? Well, nothing I want to do. Well, you know what? It pays the bills. Do you like going? It's kind of torture. That's a lot of people. You probably like, research is probably fun. I met a lot of researchers that are like, I like what I do. I met one guy that was trying to make a super rodent. That was their research, was making rodents with superpowers. And I was teasing him Mighty Mouse, the old cartoon. He's like, yeah, that's what I get to. So he was just like, this is awesome. And I'm like, well, when you get some, bring it and I'll try it. I'd like to be a superhero. So research is fun. You're just on the edge of something great. But a lot of people at the clinic, it's meeting after meeting after meeting. It's bureaucracy and it's politics. And you get lost in the system and you don't get to be you. And so they're on this side of punishment and they've lost track of what they want. So we figure out where we are, we figure out what we're all about, and then we commit to something that we want. And we might not actually get there. And I like my squiggly line. That was actually Google's squiggly line. I was like, that's kind of funny. But the idea is pivot, 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 pivot. Where are we now? And the idea to address failure is fantastic. Let's move on. Let's iterate. Let's change it. Let's do something else. And the whole point isn't that we hit the target that we're aiming for. It's that we just shoot. Shoot towards it. We're going. In coaching, the ideal client is the person that's stuck. They're moving. You know, you're talking about, I don't know where I'm going. You know, I mean, the image is someone that's walked up against a wall and they're looking around going, there's got to be over it, under it, around it. Is there a door? Is there a window? But I can't find it. And so there's something that they're looking for. And so that's that clarity. Spouses are awesome for clarity because they're able to go, I see what you don't.
Thanks.
Yeah. And my wife is very good at it. I come home and go, whoa. She's like, well, that's dumb. Look at this. And I'm like, oh. Then I have to swallow my pride. Go, thank you, honey. That was good. And then I get to get back on track and move towards it. Communities are awesome. I am here, Amanda and Jamie. I'm excited to work with Amanda later this month. You need people in your corner. You know, have your wife be your biggest cheerleader. Dude, that is gonna bomb, but do it anyway. Let's see what happens, right? It's gonna,
okay.
just cheer him to try it, and you'd be like, no, go do it. wow, that didn't work. What happened? We need those people that have our back. And community, that's what I like about this place. Let's stick together and let's laugh about the things that didn't work. And then let's talk about what's going to work. So we keep moving towards what we want. And that other word is sacrifice. You know, the late nights and not being able to afford coffee because we're saving our money for a product for our business. You know, it isn't punishment that I can't buy a $6 Venti extra. It's that I know what I want. And no, I'm just sacrificing in the meantime to go towards what I want. Now, that being said, we have a path ahead of us to develop what we need to get what we want. I don't know if you guys knew this. Cycle ball is a real sport. That looks ridiculous. Jamie, you thought soccer was a tough sport.
Yeah.
Played on a bicycle. And I point that out because the diagram next to it, step number 1 is unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. And analogies are so easy to relate to the physical realm. So I picked cycle ball. I think it's outrageous. I watched videos. They're just amazing. Now I know about it. Now I'm consciously incompetent. I know it exists. I cannot do it at all. But if I was like, you know what, I'm going to move to Germany and I'm going to become a cycle ball pro. And I'm going to move up this step. That learning change is the hard part. It's the ouch. It's the make or break. I think that steps 2 and 3 are why so many businesses fail. They go, this hurts too much. The growth curve, the learning new things, the changing who I've always been to this point is too uncomfortable. I could imagine broken bones and bruises trying to pick up that sport. It'd be brutal. And eventually we move to this place of unconscious competence where those guys don't even probably think that they're on a bicycle. They're looking at the ball. They have total confidence and control in their ability to handle the bicycle, and so they're focused on the ball. I just think that that's fascinating. And it's pretty crazy. So what happens is a lot of us start with the haves. Well, if I had capital, if I had business partners, if I had, well, then I could create this, and then I would be wealthy or successful, or I would have status, right? And it actually works the other way. You actually have to start with who you are. Start with your values, your attitudes, your beliefs, your preferences. And those are things that are hard to see, right? That's below the state of doing. This is the state of being. This is where we come from. And that's where the work has to be done to develop those skills. Ahmed got really interested in public speaking, and he's like, I think I'll join a Toastmasters, right? Now, you were never really in the unconscious incompetence, because we know what public speaking is, but you were in the conscious incompetence. You're like, I know it.
For 10 years.
Yeah. And you're like, I'm gonna put myself in a place to fine-tune this skill, and you're moving up that ladder. And we talked about when you presented, both of us have talked about nerves, and you go into a new space and it's like, and the more you spend time there, the better you get at it. So finding out where to spend your time. So be, do, have. When we start to associate who we are on the inside, then our behaviors externally start to change. It's interesting for me. My dad is diabetic and like 200 pounds overweight. And this is going back to finding reality. When I was a kid, everyone said, you're just like your dad. And they didn't mean I was fat like him. I was a kid. But personality, looks, I had similarities. And I always struggled with weight. I gain weight, get really unhappy, uncomfortable, and then I'd work really hard and lose weight, and then gain it back. And I realized that who I was on the inside was just like my dad. And I found that story and I go, well, that's not working for me. So now, who am I? I'm healthy, fit, athletic, and strong. That's who I am. I make different choices now. I can walk past a plate of donuts. I used to grab 2. Why? Well, because I'm fat like my dad. That's who I am. And now I'm starting to have the results from who I say I am. Very interesting, and it's very backwards from the world. You wanna know somebody that lives from a place of have is meet a complainer. No, you know, if I had enough money to pay for a gym membership, I'd be fit. No, you wouldn't. If you'd have a gym membership, you'd still be fat. Because it's your identity. And we need to flip that. The super achievers, and I've used Elon Musk a bunch of times, he's invincible in his head. And you watch the choices he makes. They're absolutely ridiculously fearless. I mean, he went from like billionaire to sleeping in his car to millionaire to billionaire. I mean, because never ever was there any doubt in his mind that he wouldn't be successful. And so his choices all followed with that. How fascinating. I really love be yourself, everyone else is already taken. That's really kind of a thumb your nose towards the shoulds, the shoulders. Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. And my favorite author right now is Brene Brown. You are imperfect, you are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. Thank you. Yeah.
Good timing.
Yeah. Questions, thoughts, reflections?
Got some time.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It's good to make us all think. I think
Yeah,
about
definitely.
just like where are we at? What are we?
Yeah.
Why are we doing all this again?
Yeah. Selfish sounds bad, but selfish is good when it comes to wanting to show up more effectively. And you know, that's my heart here, is that we take the time to invest in ourselves so that we can show up in a better way. A lot of the people that I'm finding are coming to me, they're my age, and they've checked all the boxes. Mm-hmm. They did what society said you're supposed to do to find happiness. And they're like, yeah, but it's not there. And they didn't do the work. You know, our public schools just push you through knowledge. And college pushes us through knowledge. And they teach us to listen and obey and not really think for ourselves. That's why the entrepreneur community is so much fun. Because they're like, you don't tell me what to do. I'm going to figure this out on my own if it kills me. Yeah.
Good question. So with relationships or business and everything, you can, sometimes people will say, let's say relationships, the person you met is not the person they are now. For example, like if it's a 10-year marriage or something, mm-hmm. You know, people change. Do you believe people change, or is it something else, like they're the same person but something else changes about them?
Yeah. So I think that we're a third nature, we're a third nurture, and we're a third free will. I couldn't be in this business if I didn't believe people change. My wife and I met and married in 6 months. I met her, I'm like, she's amazing. Wait, she has a kid? I was like, no, I can do this. My parents adopted 3 kids. And I understood the psychology of it. I do have a degree in psychology, which helps. I picked psychology because I wanted to know what normal was. And I realized that my childhood was as normal as it could be, given the circumstances of adoption, blended families. And we met and married in 6 months. About 4 years into the marriage, we woke up one Saturday morning and I looked at her and I laughed out loud and I said, who are you? I said, I'm really glad I like you, because I didn't know who you are, and we're both changing a ton. My whole transition from focusing on my family to moving out into the business world is challenging our marriage a ton. My wife's like, where are you? I'm out doing this thing that I've always wanted to do, and I'm doing it now. And so I've really changed a lot from just being home and being present to being out of the house and doing things. We're supposed to grow. And I think that in marriage, the fun thing is to challenge your spouse and go, who can you become? Right? A lot of us are afraid of that. They're afraid of the ouch part in the middle. I want to be a great orator, you know. I want people to speak of me like they do of Barack Obama. Everybody loved listening to him talk. He's good at it.
You read my journal?
Share something.
Right? But those are good dreams to have. Dream too big, you know? When you think about breaking down a business, step one is really hard. Usually step one, it's too big, and we don't realize it. You know, Ahmed and I talked about if I want to be in shape, don't say, I'm going to buy a gym membership and go every day. Say, I'm going to put my gym bag by the door. Because then in the morning you see it and you go, oh, shoot. I'll grab the bag and go. So you find that really, really tiny first step that moves you. And then you find the next tiny step. And we do usually pick too big of a first step. And it's too hard. And then we go, this must not be right. And we step back and then think about it and think about it and think about it. So, yeah, I think that just pondering what's possible and then stepping back and go, who do I have to be now to become that person later? I listened to a great podcast where the guy goes, your life should be just preparation. You should prepare in your 20s for your 30s. You should prepare in your 30s for your 40s. You should prepare in your 40s for your 50s. And that's so powerful when you think about what you're doing now. You know what? Game of Thrones is on. I don't want to work on my business. Well, what do you want in your 40s or your 50s? Oh, I should probably work on my business. One of my clients I met with today, he came to me and he's a general manager of a company. And he's like, you know what I decided? I want to quit working at 40. I'm like, holy crap. Tell me more. And he's like, yeah, just sitting here thinking about what I want in life. And his wife is a doctor, that helps. But all of their money goes into investments. They live on a pretty tight budget because everything goes into kids' college funds, 401k, all kinds of different investments. Because he wants to be done at 40, be with his kids. And she wants to retire at 55 from being a doctor. So they're living now in their 30s. That's what they want in their 40s and their 50s. So proactively moving towards that. Thinking about who do I have to be now. Big deal. That was a long answer. Just several tangents. Come on, Jamie. Have a question.
I think we have a lot of questions for ourselves now from the conversation.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I think we're stuck on that.
You talk about you work well with clients that have they're stuck. They're at that wall. They're looking for, I think you used the phrase of looking for a window or a door or something. Yeah. Do you ever see clients that are just trying to climb every wall and they're going in all directions and they don't realize, they're totally present different than those that identify as stuck?
Yeah.
Is that a type of stuck too? Or?
Yeah, it's the life gives you too much life. And they try and do it all. I have to be super parent, super spouse, super involved. And learning to say no is really hard.
Do you do boundary training then, or do you have them clarify their purpose first and then go back and look at the boundaries? So
in coaching, I always give homework. You give him homework. You'd be like, well, I'm at work. I want you to do this, read this book, go to this place, and whatever. With clients like that where they overcommit, I say this week I want you to say no 3 times, and I want you to write it down and come back and tell me about it.
Okay.
And they come back and they're like, I can only say no once. That was really hard, right? Because that's moving from that unconscious incompetence. They, in their core, they did everything. But it wasn't working, but they didn't know anything else. And then you presented them, hey, say no. What? You can say no? Yeah, try it. I tried it. It was terrible. It hurt. Okay.
That was very much me in the last decade, and then I just scaled back and fell off the planet. And now, like, I'm tempted to kind of like start being more entrepreneurial or start doing things, but my fear is going back to that.
Yeah.
You know, and then burning through another 10 years and going, okay,
yeah,
really, did I come to a point of clarity and achievement that I feel good about? Not really.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And those are, the questions are so hard if you answer them well. You know, I say in coaching, to the extent in which you answer, where am I, what am I all about, and what do I want, how becomes inevitable. But a lot of people say, I don't know, I'm good at a lot of things, and you know what, I want to be beautiful and rich. Does that make sense? Okay, the how's not going to happen. There's no clarity to those first three questions. And you've got other people that go, I am these things, this is how I show up, and this is what I want. And those people, they meet with me for 3 months and they're gone because they know exactly what they're going to do. And I have other clients that say, I don't know to everything, and I've worked with them for 2 years. It took them the first year to finally just start answering questions, being honest with themselves. So yeah, you got to do the work. But for everybody, it's different. I mean, the one guy that wants to retire at 40, it's because what he wants is to be a dad. That's his thing. Is what I'm all about. I love it. It's epic experiences. And that's how he answered it. And I was just like, that's awesome. And so he talks about management, and he's more interested in member engagement experience and employee experience. So he's like, I just want my employees to think this is awesome. And I go, wait, you mean epic experience?
What's this guy's name? I'll go work for him.
I know.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. In his and my time together, he realized to be that, he had to become a real leader. And so that's what we work on. So yeah, answering those questions, spend a lot of time on them. Wrestle with it. Take your time.
What if you feel that you've already answered these questions in your head? They just need that get up and go, you know, like that little push, like where you push yourself, you know what I mean? Like, where do you go about that? Like,
yeah.
Like, how do you start in that sense?
You're referring to personal motivation?
Not necessarily because you're already motivated, so it's kind of like, what is this feeling? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're motivated, you're ready to go, you know what you want, and there's no, like, remember the pyramid of the do, be, and have. So, in retrospect, everyone had, if I had this, I could do that, then I can become this. But if something is a complete mix, like a collage of everything, so I do have this, I want to do this, and then I can be this. And then, I already have this that I need to be this to do it. It's just how do you collect them all together and put this into initiation where it can be this amazing thing that you believe that you can do or you're complaining about doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's in the way?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
Now I'm going to say something.
Sweet.
I woke up, I had some caffeine. A lot of times when I'm faced with that, what's in my way is fear.
You know what? I think I was too scared to admit that. I think that might be it.
Breakthrough. So one of the things I've used before, invoice. One of the things I've used very successfully before is Seth Godin has this thing called a Ship It Journal, which you can download. It's a PDF, and it walks you through. And one of the first things it asks you is like, "What's this idea? Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid of this idea? Like, why are you afraid of doing it?" And you actually just get a little bit of space to write, and suddenly you start writing some of the stuff out, and And then it's like, what could I can't remember now. It's been about a year or two since I've done it. What are you really afraid of? And then it just asks about success. What does success look like? What does radical success look like? And then the next question is, okay, let's be real. It's not going to look like that. So what's that minimum level of success? And it just kind of walks you through. So sometimes I think the answer is, for me, it's finding a framework and then just going down that framework. So the Ship It Journal is good. There's a few others, but that one helped me along when I was trying to think, am I going to walk away from my 10-year career at Mayo and dive into this crazy like co-working, helping to build an entrepreneurial ecosystem? I actually went through that journal and I walked through it and filled it out. And at the end, I went from this, oh my God, I'm so afraid that I'm going to have no people showing up in my co-working space. I'm not going to be able to pay myself. My kids will all hate me because they can't do anything fun. We're out on the street. To suddenly like, you know what? I've thought this through. It makes sense. This is not a big fear for me anymore. And suddenly I got over it just by kind of walking through that framework. So that was really helpful to me to get started.
You kind of shake hands with each concern after you've broken it down to digestible steps. I remember when you started Collider, my fear factor was like, I wish I was younger. If this was in Rochester 10 years ago, because there's all these great,
we accept people
smart
of all ages.
I know, and I've seen
We do
it,
not
and it's so
discriminate.
awesome, but that was my block in my head. It was so stupid, and it's like, I don't know. But it is pretty neat. There's definitely a lot more support in the community and a lot more resources.
That's another thing that, a lot of people think this is a solo journey.
Yeah.
And I show a lot, when I talk, I show a lot of slides of the heroic pose of a solo entrepreneur on the top of a mountain, kind of standing like this. I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah.
That's not how it happens. It takes a community to help support you and to get the word out about what you're trying to do. And obviously you need customers and things like that. It takes a whole group of people in a community to help you move ahead. And a lot of people think it just has to start with them. It's all reliant on you. And the faster you get over that and realize you have to talk to people, you have to collaborate with people, it's amazing how people want to actually be helpful. Yeah. But you have that fear of actually even talking to them about things. I've had people walking into my space telling me, I have the greatest idea for a product that I'm going to start. I'm going to start a company. Tell me what it is. Can't tell you. Yeah. You're going to steal it from me.
And the fear is.
And I'm like, well, how can I help you? I don't know.
Ahmed, don't steal my card game.
No, I did already.
I like
It's
to wait
overseas.
till they tell me. I saw him Shark Tank last night. Leave it at that.
I will give you the counterpoint to that.
Uh-oh.
Because I feel like fear can also, like in my life, I think fear has driven the motivations, right? So you talked about public speaking. I think joining Toastmasters was actually out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because the job or the job role I had, I know I have the right ideas, but I can't relay them in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt afraid that was holding me back, and that's what led to this. So, not that should be the case, but I think fear can be a motivator, just an unhealthy one. Yeah. So maybe that's something.
And it can be reframed.
Hopefully, I hope so.
When you reframe fear rather than I'm afraid to, I'm motivated. Jamie's desire to build ecosystems, it's terrifying. But Jamie's like, no, I'm motivated to make it work. So what's in the way? All these things. And I can be afraid of them, or I can use these things to motivate me to take action. So reframing is another thing that we can work on when we come up against things that we're stuck with. Yeah. I don't know if I have the slide. I think that's
a good one.
It's penguins.
No, I don't have it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
They're collaborating.
They're all collaborating together, staying warm.
Yeah. So another really helpful tool, and I don't have it on a slide, but this is how all of life works. We have a circumstance, and we react to it. We actually react to it with thoughts. Okay, thoughts of I'm not good enough, I might fail, right? And then those thoughts produce emotions, feelings. But usually we don't actually put the thoughts first, we put the feelings first. Oh, I'm really anxious right now. Well, why? Well, because of that thing over there. Well, that thing over there is actually not scary. It's neither. It just is. Public speaking just is. It's not scary or exciting, it just is. your feeling of fear towards it is actually because of thoughts you have about it. So when you feel anxiety, or when you feel hesitation, or you feel afraid, you feel like you're not enough, go, what are the thoughts? And that's where those thoughts tell a story to you. My thought was, you're fat like your dad. Now the feelings I had was, I can't do this. I lack self-discipline to eat healthy or exercise, and I felt like a failure. I never even was able to address the thought that pushed the emotions towards me. So circumstance is in front of us. It's neither good or bad, it just is. But then we have thoughts about it that produce emotions. And then those emotions are what drive action or inaction. So in your case right now, it's kind of an inaction thing, where you see stuff, but you're experiencing it in a way that you're not doing anything. Or, I don't know where your situation is, but action or inaction, they're both action. And then that produces outcomes. And so that's where we have feelings, and then we need to go back to what kind of thoughts am I having? And these are usually our blind spots. Like your answer, I don't know, it's a blind spot. You don't see it. And so some of these just self-assessment tools like that journal, great idea. Journaling, I have my clients journal. It's so powerful. It records a moment in time. With my coach, I have 64 pages in Google Docs with him. And probably once every couple of months, I pull it out and scroll through it. I remind myself of who I am. The things that I wrote in there, I have to remind myself about them. You know, when we want to change a behavior, they have these studies about 21 days to change a habit. No. If you do the habit once in 21 days, it's not 21 days. You have to do the habit continuously for 21 days, right? So it actually isn't the days, it's how often you repeat it to change a habit. So yeah, the journaling for yourself. Get up in the morning and go, all these things are on my mind. Where am I? What am I thinking about? How do I feel? How many emotions do I know? There's like 200 emotions. Who knew that? I know like angry and sad and happy, you know? But there's all kinds of other ones, and you start writing those down and go, what are the thoughts in my head right now? So I like that one. That's very powerful. To go, this is in front of me, what are my thoughts on it, and consequently my feelings. And that's where reframing comes in. What if I chose to feel happy instead of sad? What kind of thoughts would I have? And death is one of those fascinating things where if your best friend was 2,000 miles away and they died and you didn't know they died, you wouldn't be sad. But they're dead, right? So it isn't that they died, it's that you know about it. And that comes from thoughts about death or that relationship with that person. And so those thoughts produce feelings, and we get to decide what they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you can tell her, don't shit on me.
Don't.
I do that.
Yeah.
I have to admit.
She's like, you know what, stay-at-home husband? You should. And you're like, whoa. Don't shit on me. Let's find reality together.
We're a team.
That's
all right.
right.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Nice job.